Likratikala, Pene Shabbat Nakavera, Lehadodi Likratikala, Pene Shabbat Nakavera.
Good morning, Jill and Menachem.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, good morning.
Thank you so much for welcoming me into your home and spending time with me here this morning.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.
You guys are the Kuchar family.
Right.
Kuchar.
Kuchar.
Right.
And you guys have been in Efrat for
35 years.
35 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Jill, you were just showing me 2 minutes ago. You were just showing me.
Yes, I should have brought you the very
list.
first phone list. Yeah, I began the Gush phone here, but the first phone list is two sides, with names, a sheet of paper, two sides.
And phone numbers only had 4 digits.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Because everyone was 93.
No mobiles in.
Right. Of course not. That's wild. And you guys came from?
Australia.
Mm-hmm.
But we lived in Yerushalayim for 3 years before we came here.
Mm-hmm.
But originally we were both
When we came here,
Australia.
there were no phone lines. We had no front. We had to drive up here and park in. There were no roads.
Wow.
And we needed
there were roads, but there wasn't this part.
Not
'Cause this was the last part of Efrat of Rimon that was built. So the main road already was paved by the time we came here, but our road didn't exist yet.
No. But we needed a phone line. We had no phones. We
Sure.
had a child who we had to be in touch with the hospitals.
Yeah.
So Bezek came within 1 day. They strung up a wire from the shul.
Within 1 day?
They came.
Yeah.
It's better service than now.
Yeah.
They strung up a wire from the shul
Yeah.
on different trees, through windows, in through a top window of our house. And we had a little phone receiver here that the neighbours that we could all use. The neighbours could use.
Yeah, and the other one was the guy behind us was a Kabbalan who built the area. So
Yeah.
he had a phone line from when he was the builder.
Right.
So
That's
there
how
were
we
2 phone
did.
lines
Two
for
phone lines.
30 families.
Oh, wow.
Or 40 families.
So you were like the second phone line
In this area
No, in
here.
this area. There were already phone lines up
In
there.
Mizrach Rimon, yeah.
Right. Oh, wow. Unreal. Sounds amazing.
A little bit of Efrat history.
I know. Imagine you coming here without a phone. You wouldn't.
I mean, I have no idea, you know. So you guys have been living here for a fair amount of time, but you know, Jill, like we bumped into each other. I only met you a few months ago. We bumped into each
By
other
chance.
by happenstance.
Yes.
And yeah, I love how that happened. And you started telling me a little bit of your story. I mean, this is a recent thing. I mean, but it was. I thought it'd be just really interesting to get right into your work and your involvement with this tribe in Uganda. How do I pronounce it again?
Abayudaya.
Abayudaya.
Bnei Yehuda in Bugandan.
Abayudaya.
Abayudaya.
Yeah.
And these photos behind me.
These are all people from the Abayudaya, correct?
And you've taken these photos.
These are all the photos here I took, correct?
We haven't panned around,
right.
but
The room,
we're sitting in a room full of gorgeous, beautiful art.
Oh, thank you.
And
Flattery
From
will get you everywhere.
From all around the world, yes.
yeah, it's really, really, really incredible. We'll take a few snapshots and we'll insert that into this video. This is great.
Okay.
So, I mean, how did this start, and who are these people?
Okay, well, let's go back to how it started, because I didn't know who they were when it started either.
Right.
As you said, I'm a photographer, and I'll go anywhere that I can take different kinds of photographs. And I'm quite friendly with Rav Riskin, to the extent that we used to meet every morning at the swimming pool.
Until Corona.
Yeah. He's actually said to me a couple of times, you know, we used to talk nearly every day, and now I just don't see you, you know.
Yeah.
It's very sad for both of us, because we talk about, you know, halakha and limud and just general things in the world.
Right.
But one day, it happened to be, I remember it was a Friday, and he said to me, I'm going to Africa next week. I said, that's interesting, Rabbi. Why are you going to Africa? He said, I'm going to meet a lost tribe. And I said, wow, can I come? And he said, yeah. I said, when are you going? He said, next Thursday. And Wednesday was Shavuot.
Okay.
So I realized I didn't have very much time to prepare, if that was possible. And I spoke to the other people we went with who were organizing it for him, because he really, at that point, didn't know exactly where he was going. As obvious, you'll see, as I've told you before, but we'll see that they're not really a lost tribe at all. If anything, they're the exact opposite.
Okay.
But anyway, I didn't know that. But what happened was Ari Greenspan from Efrat, I assume you've interviewed him.
Not
if
yet.
you haven't, you should.
It's on the roster.
So Ari was with this tribe in February, and this was just before Shavuot, so it was the end of May. And Ari heard about them. He was in Nairobi, and he heard about these people, and he said, I've got to see this. So he went across. It's about an hour and a half, hour or so flight, and another 5 hours driving, and you get to their village.
Lord.
And
Is this like 5-6 years ago?
No, this is 2011.
Oh, okay. So it's a little while ago already.
It's been going for nearly a decade now. But the story's increased, it really accelerated over the years.
Right.
But Ari had shown Rabbi Riskin a film clip of a young man, local, who said, I'm studying business, but what I really want to do is be a rabbi. And, that was just like a knockout out of nowhere, I mean, they're all wearing kippot.
Right.
They weren't eating meat because they didn't know how to do shchita. But this is all we basically knew before we went. And then I looked on the Wikipedia bit and found out a little bit more about who the Abayudaya were. So in response to this...
There's no Abayudaya... like Chabad house, is there?
No.
Okay.
No. So Rabbi Riskin was basically responding to this. The trigger was, and I want to be a rabbi out in the middle of Africa.
Right.
Rabbi Riskin said, I've got to see this. And Harry said, okay, I'll arrange the trip. So off we went, with me sort of tagging along, not that much interest in necessarily what was interesting had interested Rabbi Riskin,
right?
But more for an adventure.
Interested in lost
yeah,
tribes.
I was going to say that, but
Right.
but I learned in Yeshiva in Merkaz Arav, and Rav Avichail, who was the rabbi who already in the 70s started looking for the lost tribes, specifically the lost tribes, largely the Afghanis, who claim to be the tribes, like all different tribes. The tribes of the Afghans have names similar to some of the Jewish tribes, like there's Rabbani, which is like Ruvain, and Lawaya, which is like Levi, and others. And Rav Tzvi Yehuda Cook, the Rosh Yeshiva, encouraged Rav Avichail to don't just take this theoretically. I want you to do something about it and go find them. And so he did. He went looking, but he really didn't find that much. But I was in the yeshiva when his book was published, and I read his book, and I said, "This is really interesting. I've got to keep my ear on the ground to see what happens with this story."
Sure.
We're talking about now 1981.
Okay.
So I always had in the back of my mind, I want to know more about the lost tribes. So that excited me a little bit as well.
Right.
So anyway, on the way to Uganda, we went through Nairobi, and that also Ari had set up Rabbi Riskin. I don't mean that in a bad way; I mean in a positive way, because he knew he knew that he was meeting them.
Right.
There were about 15 what I like to call Africans, in other words, local Africans, that were coming to the shul. The shul was then almost 100 years old, was established by people who came basically from Russia and those areas, Ukraine, running away from the pogroms, and came to Nairobi and eventually set up a shul and a bet farot and all the things
so
that go with it.
Sefer Torah, they had
right, everything. Yeah, they had rabbis over the time, but it's hard to get a rabbi to a place like that.
Right.
The problem was that that's half the community, the descendants of the pogrom escapees. The other half were Israelis. Who were there for business, and they were doing extremely well. Like, for example, Nesichat Anilus, the guy who brings all the fish from there, lives in Nairobi and davens in this shul, right?
Okay.
And no one's really Shomer Shabbat Dati. The shul's in the middle of the city. No one lives anywhere near there. But it's part of their social thing. And they're a community. They really are very much a community rather than a religious. They only daven on Shabbos morning.
Right.
On Friday night and Shabbos morning. Because they're exactly on the equator, Shabbos, they always start davening at 6:30, which
it works out all the time.
Yeah, right.
You don't need to push out.
You don't need a list of like It's always basically the same. Anyway, and what was happening there was that there was a split in the community between those that wanted to welcome these 15 local people and those that wanted to have almost nothing to do with them, although they realized.
And this is happening like pitom as you guys are arriving, or no, around that time?
Well, it had culminated then. It started with one woman who started 15 years before that coming, and gradually the numbers increased. Right. These people weren't friends. They weren't acquaintances even, except for in the shul. In other words, there were like a dozen different independent pockets in the city of Nairobi that where individuals decided that the Christianity that we've got is hoo-ha, and that the real thing is Judaism.
Oh, wow.
And we want to know more about it. Okay, that's how it started. Anyway, so that we had meetings with the congregation, Rabbi Riskin trying to convince them that you've got to be more accepting, etc., etc. Anyway, then after Shabbat, we flew to Uganda, to the village. We spent one day with them, and we visited a number of villages. But the main village we went to was the village this young man, whose name is Moshe Yashira, who wanted to be a rabbi even though he was studying business. And so
the village of Putti.
Yeah, the village is called Putti. And we met them, and we spoke to them, and we met this gentleman up here who is the older gentleman who's passed away since then, who is the nephew of Kokongulu. He's the founder of the Abayudaya. I'll get into that a little bit more, but we met him. This was taken later on, but we met him. We met all these different interesting people, and they told us all about their story. And just briefly, their story is that they started keeping Judaism in 1919 when this man Kokongulu, after a long period of time, realized that the Christianity they'd been converted to wasn't the real thing, and he decided to only keep the Old Testament and basically ripped the New Testament out of his Bible.
Wow!
Because one of the things you have to know, the missionaries translated the Bible into about 100 local African languages in order for the mission to be able to...
Right, so it was like accessible to them so they could study it.
Right, so that was the only Bible he had. Obviously didn't know any other...
So he took the New Testament out of it.
And he told his neighbors, who were Christians and Muslims, that I've stopped believing in the New Testament and I only believe in the Old. And they said to him, just like the Jews. So he said, "Ich weiß nicht, was ist das Jews."
Right.
but
wow,
he
said Yiddish.
Exactly. But he said basically, if you're telling me I'm a Jew, then I'm a Jew.
Wow.
And he did Brit Milah.
Okay. Once again, this is what year was this?
1919.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Okay. This is during the British colonial period.
Right.
And
he did Brit Milah. He said,
yeah.
Yes.
Like he didn't do it on himself.
Yeah.
Okay. Just one thing that most people don't realize is most of sub-Saharan Africa circumcise.
Okay.
Okay. It's an interesting phenomenon. Why? But circumcision is very common in most of sub-Saharan Africa, except in Uganda, the exception of the Buganda tribe, which is the tribe we're talking about.
Okay.
Or the people came from the Buganda tribe. They won't even scratch themselves on purpose, for a scar, which is scaration is very common
elsewhere
in many places.
So there's specifically a fuch the opposite.
Right. Even to the extent that the Muslims tried to convert the king of Uganda in the middle of the 19th century, and he said no, but he can't do Brit Milah. And they decided to accept him. No, the Muslims even decided to accept him without Brit Milah.
Oh, wow.
So here we have this guy who's high up in the hierarchy of the royalty. He's not a member of the royal family, but he's very close to them. And he decides to accept Judaism and understands there has to do Brit Milah. So he sent his brother to one of the tribes that did do circumcision to learn how to do it. His brother did it on him, and then within a very short time, within a year, he had 1,000 followers. All the males had done Brit Milah.
Wow.
And they started doing it on their sons at the age of 8 days.
So they're like, you were telling me before we started talking live, they are converting. They were converts. Like they come into the tribe.
Okay, that's very interesting, because there's an opinion in the Gemara that you can convert yourself without a beit din. It's not accepted la halacha, but nobody in the Gemara argues against the opinion. It actually occurs twice in different forms in Shas, where if you do Brit Milah and do Tevilah l'shem Giyur, then then you're Jewish according to the Gemara, not according to the way we posek halacha.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that respect, he also built a mikveh, and they did tefillah l'shem giur, and they all did.
Wow.
So in that respect, yes, they were Jewish, and they
So
really.
he's got all these followers now.
He's 1,000 followers.
Yeah.
And is he like the spiritual leader? Is he
Yeah.
sort of like the
He's a
Rav?
spiritual leader.
Yeah.
I won't go into details about his life, but he basically retired because the British double-crossed him in promises they'd made to him, etc. And he basically said, I don't want anything to do with public life.
Okay.
And he built this very grand house, and he lived there. And he just said, well, you know, they've made me a Christian, so I'm going to read the Bible. And he started reading the Bible and
then he-
gradually realized that there are too many contradictions between the old and the new and within the new
Once
itself.
they talk about Yosef, who came.
Yeah, I'll get there. Yeah.
Cool.
So he created a book of halachot. He knew nothing except for the Old Testament.
Unreal.
And he created a book of halachot that
Yeah.
they followed. He would make a kiddush for all 1,000 people every Shabbat in the shul that he built, right? But again, he's got no connection with the outside world yet.
Right. He doesn't know anything.
No,
he only
knows
knows what
nothing.
he's reading.
He thinks
and-
he's the only one in the world, except that his
Some
neighbors
said the
told him
Jews,
about
yeah.
the Jews.
Right.
He doesn't know. Okay, at some point after this, and it's not clear to me whether it was like around a year or so later, or he died in 1928, and some opinions I've said this only happened in 1927, but he happened to be in Kampala, and we're talking about a 5-hour drive.
Okay.
On certain business, and a guy whose name is Yosef, whom we know nothing about. He's either a Taimani or from Israel or from Europe,
Okay.
and he's doing business with the British colonialists in Uganda.
Right.
Okay, and he sees a guy who's about 6.5 feet tall, stands very straight, wearing really strange clothes.
Okay.
Because
That's how he
Kukungulu,
thought people should dress. Jews should
because
dress.
Kukungulu, he wanted to
Mm-hmm.
dress like the Bible, and how did he know what they wore in the time of the Bible?
Yeah.
The Christian Bibles had pictures.
Okay. Oh my
So he
goodness.
dressed like this. So
Okay.
this guy Yosef said, "Who is this guy?" Sometimes he's a Jew from Mbale, which is where he came from, and he said, "I want to meet this guy." And they talked, and he spent the next 6 months in Kukungulu's house.
Oh, he stayed with him.
Yes,
6 months.
teaching him.
Teaching
Wow.
him.
Wow. Okay. So
Okay.
wow, it must have been
And this is where they came into
mind-blowing, revelation for him.
Right. And this is basically how they learnt about Judaism,
Okay.
other than what they made up in inverted commas themselves from reading the Old
So
Testament.
this mysterious character Yosef.
Right. And we know, other than his name is Yosef, we know nothing about him.
Nothing.
There's a bit of there are a couple of descriptions of him, whether accurate or not. He seemed to be sort of quite olive-skinned, and that's why the idea of Taimani
Right.
may have come in. And Aden was part of the British Empire, and Aden across through the Horn of Africa is quite close. So it's possible, but we
And
really
this
don't
can't
know.
be. You can't make this up because
No.
now they know, like what the rest of the Jewish world is doing at that time. Sort of.
Well, yes and no, because
Okay.
how much can one man learn in 6 months and pass
course.
on? Okay, so after he died.
But from what he knew before to what he knew after.
Oh yeah,
that's
for
the
sure,
world.
for sure.
Yeah.
No. If you walked in, I mean, I don't know if they had to fill in at that stage. He left them a Hebrew English Bible.
Yeah.
So he now had he knew exactly. See, part of the problem with the Christian Bible is it's not clear where the old ends and the new starts, and the beginning of the New Testament is very similar to the beginning of Divrei Yamim. It just lists of names because they want to prove the lineage of Jesus, right?
Right.
And the names in the in Divrei Yamim is to get to Avraham,
Right.
And then spreads out all his family. So it's a little bit hard to know which book is where if you don't know. But now we had a real authentic Old Testament.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, sure.
So,
Okay, so the guy who took over after him in the mid-30s was a guy called Samson Agombe.
Now they're using like biblical names.
No, he's the one that brought this in.
Okay.
He brought in two interesting rules. We only marry within each other,
Okay.
right? And he married his 4 daughters to his 4 main disciples,
Okay.
right? And we only use names from the Bible.
Okay.
Okay, so that's where. So when we got there, people coming up to us and say, "My name is Moshe, my name is Elisha, my name is Enosh." All these, all these
beautiful.
biblical names. One guy says, "My name's Tarfon." I said, "Where'd you get that name from? That's not in the Bible." He says, "From the Haggadah."
Oh wow.
Right. So
That's great.
So that was it. So then they were developing nicely. They tried to make contact with world Jewry. It wasn't easy.
Right.
We're talking about at the time of Hakamat Medina and the early days of the Medina,
Okay.
and nobody's that interested. There was a guy who was doing postdoctoral at the university,
Yeah.
a guy called Abayudaya, who later was also the consul general and later the ambassador in Kenya, who made contact with them.
Okay.
And so they were getting some information from the outside Jewish world
Right.
and building it up. Then in 1972, Idi Amin, 71 he came to power. In 72, he broke up diplomatic relations with Israel because he expected Israel to support him in his various military activities, and Israel wasn't having anything to do with it. So he broke up diplomatic relations, and he decided he was going to get rid of all Jews in Uganda. So these are the only Jews. There were 3,000 by then.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and he forced them to convert to Christianity or Islam. They could choose. He was a Muslim,
Okay.
but the majority are Christians. But there's a very sizable minority of Muslims in Uganda.
Yeah.
And as long as they weren't Jewish, and there's some really very amazing stories in Mesirut Nefesh of people trying to hang on to their Judaism, like a guy who built a sukkah, but he brought all his animals in there, so it was an animal house, and slept with his animals, right? And he was still arrested for doing something Jewish.
Right.
Okay, and it was only because they managed to bribe the police and whatever that he wasn't shot for that.
Wow.
Right? And there were many stories. So by the end of the Idi Amin story, in 1979, there were only 300 that really remained faithful to Judaism. And Idi Amin was overthrown on Erev Pesach, so one of the rabbis, inverted commas, I suppose, but one of the religious leaders said, "Tonight we'll drink a fifth cup." One for being saved from Idi Amin. It took a long time for them to regroup because there was a lot of uncertainty, right up into the mid '80s. Okay, even later, and then they started to regroup, and in the 90s, they realized that they've got to know more. They've got to connect with the Jewish world and have some kind of, real official connection. In other words, conversion. But I'm not sure they called it that at that point. There were a number of different rabbis and leaders from around the world that came to them in the mid 90s, including an Orthodox rabbi who visited them twice, and he tried very hard to convince them in Yerushalayim that they've got to take these guys seriously.
Right.
And they wouldn't, because, the Rabbanut's very conservative and...
and like, who are...
Right,
don't know
right,
anything.
exactly.
Also, they're scared.
I'm not saying I didn't understand the Rabbanut, but I don't think they gave enough of a sympathetic ear to it, but I'm not sure that it's different today. Okay, so maybe I'll mention that later if we're interested, but and this is Rabbi Riskin's fight today, basically. In 2002, 5 conservative rabbis from America, one actually from Israel, who's an American, went there and did a very large conversion of hundreds of people. Because they realized, and everyone realized, even people from the outside, that if that's the only connection you can get to be able to call yourself Jewish to the Jewish world, I'm not saying I agree with it, but that's a good thing, but I can understand where they're coming from. They accepted this conservative conversion. And in 2004, they came again and converted another group. So at that point, I think the Abayudaya were maybe 1,000, 1,300. Now, there were two main guys who basically organized this whole conversion through the conservatives, who had been taken to America a couple of times by the conservatives and done the rounds of different temples and whatever, and actually were converted in America. And one of them actually was sent back after the conversions to study to be a rabbi at I forgot its name. There's a university, conservative university in it's a university in LA that gives smicha, and he spent 5 years there. And his half brother. Now the two of them from both sides, the non-common sides, as well, came from the two branches of the families that were the students of Kukungulu originally.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
They have
these,
yichus.
yeah, well, they had yichus, and also they were quite charismatic people, and both musicians as well. And it's always really nice when you go to American Shul and you start singing their own nigunim to Hebrew words,
Right.
you know, and they play the guitars and stuff like that. And they actually put out a bunch of records.
Where can I hear something like that?
We'll send you
find
some
it on
links.
the web. I'll try and
Yeah.
find you
Yeah.
something on the web. Anyway, those two gentlemen had a nephew, right, from a sister,
Okay.
called Enosh Keki. And Enosh said, "What are you guys doing?" He was in his 20s, you know,
Yeah.
they're already in their 40s, right?
Yeah.
What are you guys doing? This isn't what we've been holding out for.
Right.
We want the real thing. What we were doing until now was the real thing, and we don't want this not real thing.
Right.
And he really got
Or maybe a lighter version or whatever.
whatever. Yeah, I think he called it the real thing,
Okay.
not the real
He
thing.
said
That's the
he's
word.
going to wait till one day someone's going to come.
Yeah,
Wow.
And convert
and
them
he had-
orthodoxly. That's what he
Okay.
said. We're going to wait.
right. And they persecuted him for it, his uncles
Right.
and everyone else.
He split off and moved to this Putti area.
Okay, so
Oh, okay.
so just one thing I didn't say before: the Abayudaya split over 8 villages.
Okay.
Okay, and the main one is called Nabogoye, which is where these two brothers lived.
Okay.
And which was where Kukungulu's main shul was originally.
Mhm.
Okay, so Enosh decided, well, you know, if you don't want me here, I'll go, and he moved to the smallest population of Abayudaya, because you have to know all these villages are not purely Abayudaya because they're not a tribe.
Okay.
They're not all necessarily from the same tribe.
Okay.
They're all people who are descended from followers
It's really
of Kukungulu.
interesting. Like obviously, so they have their tribes and their villages,
Right.
And this is something like separate from that.
Yes.
Is
yes.
that unique to Abayudaya, or I mean, like?
Yeah, I think it
religious-wise,
is.
or-
I think it is. I think.
Yeah.
Well, no. Within one tribe, you probably have Muslims and Christians
Right.
within one tribe, but that haven't gone that far looking into it.
So like customs and traditions, where they probably share a lot, but at the same point,
Right.
are very, very different.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because there's obviously yeah. And again,
Very
we
interesting.
were talking before about syncretism, but there's obviously an amount of syncretism within the villages. So the Muslims and the Christians may keep certain certain rituals
Right.
that go back to
Right.
pre-Christianity and pre-Islam, which we're talking about mid 19th century. So it's relatively recent. I mean, it's under 200 years.
Right. Okay, we're
So
digressing.
fast forward, yes.
Yeah.
Fast
Okay,
forward.
so Enosh was accepted with a few of his family followers, by this village in Putti, this community in Putti, who did all convert conservatively.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but we're talking about, you know, tens of people. It was the smallest community, and they allowed them to live there as Orthodox Jews. So the irony was, when we came there 9 years later.
Mm-hmm.
This was the Orthodox community
Who hadn't converted.
who haven't converted, and the rest of them, who we met with Rabbi Gershon, who's the one who spent 5 years in America. Rabbi
Yeah.
Gershon had quite a long meeting with him. They were converted,
They're the
but they
ones
were
that are
conservative,
quote-unquote converted.
right?
Right.
So that was the irony.
You gotta love how Hashem works, right?
Yeah, right. So basically, Hashem sent Rabbi Riskin to Putti,
Wow.
to the guys who wanted to be Orthodox,
Wow.
and not to the guys who didn't want to be Orthodox.
Okay, now we're ready closer to 2011.
Now we're in 2011.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
that's our first
That's what we're
trip.
up to. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, now the main product, I guess, of the visit was that A, would open up communications. What was interesting was that Enosh, until that time, had been taking the Rabbi Riskin's Dvar Torah that used to be in the Jerusalem Post off the web and reading it to them every
Oh,
Shabbos
wow.
morning, right?
Not knowing. I mean,
Without any
No,
connection.
no.
Without a
really
connection.
under-
No connection.
No
This is
connection.
this is
Just
the one
because
that
that's what
he
he
happened to
asked
find.
you
This is the
and-
one Hashem put in front of him.
Unreal.
Take it say it any way you want, but this is the
Wild.
uvda, right? This is the fact that was happening. So Rabbi Riskin brought two guys back to the yeshiva in 2012.
The moment he showed up,
Yeah.
like, what was that like? I mean,
It was
were you there?
unbelievable.
Were you
I
on the
mean,
ground there?
yeah, I was there. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of photographs of stuff. It was I'll just tell you one little anecdote,
Please.
which was the rabbi said, Ari, let's daven mincha. We should daven mincha now. It's like, So he said, go and daven. I said, Rabbi, I'm very chutzpahdik. I said, Rabbi, we don't have a minyan. There are 5 of us.
Right.
We were 5, and none of them are Jewish yet.
Right.
And anyway, Aniut Dati, in my humble opinion, we want to see if they know anything.
Right.
Right. So this guy Moshe, the one from the clip. So Rav Riskin said, okay, would one of you
Go
like
and
to
daven.
daven
You
mincha?
leave, yeah.
So everybody points to Moshe, right?
Okay.
So he was obviously the superstar, and that's why he came to yeshiva. He was the one that was first selected, and then afterwards the rabbi decided 2 would be better than 1, which
It's always
made a lot
better
of
being
sense.
2, yeah.
Sure.
So he gets up there and he starts going, and just like in an angelic voice like that. I'm not like my voice, but really angelic. And then the whole community goes, Ashrei Shikacha Lo,
beautiful.
and they went right through the whole of Ashrei like this,
Wow.
right? And then they said the lachash, right? Like you hear a pin drop. I don't know how often I've been in a show like this, and then the Chazarat Hashatz and Kedusha and everything, and it was just amazing. I said to Rav Riskin afterwards, I said, Rabbi, I don't know when was the last time I could daven with this kind of kavanah, and he didn't answer me. He just looked at me like ditto, ditto. So that was the first meeting, and then they put on a choir and they spoke and they introduced us to the elder statesmen of the community, and this went on for, I guess we were there for about 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
And then we went to see Kuchar grave.
Yeah.
Which is and his house where he lived, because in Uganda, actually in most of sub-Saharan Africa, people get buried near there where they lived.
Okay.
So it's an interesting grave because he was a warrior, he was a soldier, he was a hunter. So there's a big spear sticking out his grave and stuff like that.
Photographs in the book, yeah.
Yeah, photograph in the book.
Neat.
And of the house and whatever. And then we went to visit 2 other communities. One was to visit Rabbi Gershom in Abayudaya, and then we went, just before it was getting dark, we went off to another community which was just further down the road, which also had a shul. I think the 8 communities at that point had five shuls.
Okay.
They were active.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Some were davening daily, some were davening Shabbatot. They were an active community. They all wore kippot around. Not even just because we were there. They just wore kippot.
It's Jewish day schools.
Oh, that's right. There was already a Jewish day school by
They're
then.
doing Chumash, Mishnah, Gemara, any of that?
I don't really know. No. I think Chumash, but I'm not sure much else. First of all, there are a lot of goyim in the schools.
Yeah.
Okay. In Abayudaya, there's a primary school and a high school.
Okay.
The Yoni Yetan.
No, that's in Putti. That was started later.
Yeah.
That was started about 4 or 5 years ago. The Yoni Netanyahu school.
Day school, yeah.
Uh-huh. Wait, what's that about?
It's a day
No,
school.
that's named after Netanyahu because
Because of the Entebbe.
Entebbe.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's-
As a matter of fact,
I mean,
his
I'm
parents.
just wondering if someone donated.
No. His
No.
Enosh's parents wanted
That's
to call him
beautiful.
Yonatan.
Yeah.
He was
Wow.
born in 1976, right in the middle of, right? He was born just then, right?
Yeah.
Just after Entebbe.
Right.
And that was like the real down for Idi Amin and Ada. And they said, everyone said to his parents, "You don't be crazy if you call him Yonatan. Like, we're supposed to be pretending we're Christians."
Right.
So they
Especially
call him
writing
Enosh
that
instead of
one down.
Yonatan. But
Unreal.
so he has this affinity to. Actually, the second time we were there, we actually visited the control tower where the battle took place.
That was amazing.
Wow.
I should show you photos of
You
that
have
also.
photos of that too.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, she has photos. I don't because it's a.
Yeah.
It's
It's closed military zone, but I use
military
my
zone.
camera, my phone.
No, it's the
Yeah.
headquarters. No, afterwards they said I could have taken photos
Right.
because of just the control tower. It's the headquarters of the Ugandan Air Force today.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Oh,
it's next to. It's next
Who
to.
knew?
Most people
Yeah.
don't realize this, but the airport, the Entebbe airport,
Yeah.
is next to the airport where there were 2 airports, there were 2 landing strips next to each other. This was the very old airport, which then became the military headquarters,
Right.
the Air Force headquarters.
Okay.
And the other one is the Entebbe, which was already the
So
Entebbe
you guys
airport.
were there.
So we landed the plane on the old airport because they were being kept at the old airport, not at the new airport.
Okay.
Okay, in other words, Idi Amin's not an idiot. I mean, he didn't close the airport because he had all these hostages. He put them in the old terminal building in the airport. Anyway, so they basically they knocked everything down. That's totally changed since it became the Air Force headquarters. But Israel convinced them to leave the terminal, the tower, the control tower, which is where Yoni was killed and where the main battle took place, because there was
one day you'll go there. One day you'll go
Yeah.
there.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, it's hard to get there. We wanted to go there again last year, but we couldn't get permission to go there because, again, you need special permission because it's inside an Air Force base.
Right.
But you can get in, and we did the first time.
Wow.
Right?
But go on.
Well, 2013 that was. Okay. So these two guys came to the yeshiva.
Okay.
And
so which two guys came to the yeshiva?
Moshe and Tarfon. Okay. And they were here for 10 months.
There's yeshiva here.
Yeah.
To Machanaim. Yeah.
Okay.
Our home was their bayit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not just their home. They had a few
many
people.
families, actually.
There were a few families that they spent a lot of time with. They were
Yeah.
here for meals a lot.
How long were they here for?
10 months.
Okay.
And then Tarfon tells us he's going to get married.
Okay.
So Rav Riskin says, well, we've got to go. We've got to go to that.
Right.
Can't miss that, right? I got to do the wedding.
Yeah.
So we went back in January 2013.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we went back again. Actually, this time we went back with a lot of people. We actually really did have a minion because a couple of people came from the States, from Canada and whatever.
They had meanwhile built, we were going to convert, they had meanwhile built a mikveh in a field.
Right.
In a field. A real mikveh, tiled mikveh in the open air.
Yeah. Very prepared for it.
Not even a wall, not even a real wall around it. Now there is, but
now the wall. Then we did the used the mikveh there for the conversion.
Well, we converted very few people.
Yeah.
Very few that trip.
Very few.
Okay.
Meaning Enosh's family and Tarfon's family and that was it.
Were there more who wanted to?
Oh yes.
No, they all wanted to.
They all wanted to.
Not only that, I'll tell you something very interesting. But the other person we converted was this girl that Tarfon married. Is originally from Nairobi.
Back to Nairobi connection again.
That's a Nairobi connection, and she was sent to go to a Jewish school.
Yeah.
Which is she was sent to go to this Jewish school because there's no Jewish school anywhere else in Africa. East Africa.
She was sent to go to Putti to a Jewish to the area to be.
And that's how they knew each other. That's where first met. Anyway, so the grandmother.
Hashem works, huh?
The grandmother. Well, it gets worse. Better. The grandmother of this girl was the first lady that came to the Nairobi shul.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
Back then, right?
Oh my goodness.
And that's why she was sent to school there, because when she was a child, the grandmother was already coming to the shul every Shabbat.
And she had already known about.
Yeah, right. And she knew about.
So we also converted her that trip.
So we converted her that trip as well.
Right, because they're getting married.
Yes.
No, the grandmother.
The grandmother.
Yeah.
Well. And that was, she was in a wheelchair. She just had a stroke, and it was like
it was amazing.
This was the mikveh lady. She was in the mikveh helping everyone, all the kids.
I had a question just popping into my head.
Yeah, sure.
What's their relationship with Hashem like? What's their Yiddishkeit like? We spoke about what they study, what they might not study, but what do you get from them? Do they have this sort of personal relationship with Hashem, or is it more a communal thing? What do you guys think about that?
I think
it's hard to.
I think it's not that much different from mine.
Yeah.
Mine might be more intellectual, but theirs is becoming more intellectual, which they're learning more all the time and whatever. No, look, Judaism for them is a community thing. That's for sure. They eat all their meals together.
Right.
But in general, I think these villages eat together.
But they're very believing.
Yeah, they're very believing.
They talk about Hashem all the time.
Yeah. No, if you ask me that, to answer it without going into a lot of depth, no different from mine.
I mean, that's incredible to say because they're a world away. I mean,
right.
It's like where they come from.
But Hashem created their world too.
Right. Of course.
They realize that.
That's really interesting.
And at least the Orthodox ones, more than I think the conservatives, but I'm not sure I'm 100% correct, want to be here. Because they see, and I realized this already in 2011, that they realize that part of being Jewish is living in Eretz Israel. And again, that's not something that that we taught them. Right. Because it's before we taught them.
Yeah, they're just learning the Torah.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
Wow. So that's a good answer to what are they learning.
So
Yeah.
so
That's how things began with them. And since
I'll tell you
then
something
with
very
the
interesting that happened though in 2013 with JJ. You want to talk about that?
Right, no, you can talk about that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So this guy JJ, who was Gershom's brother, the main guy who brought in the conservative, we had a meeting because we couldn't convert them yet,
Okay.
except for these guys. Because well, Tarfon was actually already converted in Israel, so was Moshe. But Enosh was sort of the leader of the community, and he was the main teacher. And we felt we had to convert this nucleus, even though it meant that they would be the only Jews in the community.
But this is sort of like the spiritual leadership of the community.
Yes.
So we had a town hall meeting, which I'm using that in the American sense.
Yeah.
Basically, everyone was there, and people from other communities as well, including JJ. And JJ at that point had already switched totally out of conservatism, and he wanted orthodoxy. He really wanted orthodoxy. And so Rabbi Riskin had this not easy task of explaining to them why we're not converting them now, and we only converted
So few. They
did.
thought they were all going to be. They thought they were being
Right.
converted. They were so excited for our trip. They thought we were converting.
And
them.
there were even a couple of
We
people
didn't.
other than, I think they didn't come for the wedding, like, what's his name, Humphrey. They came, I think, because they thought we were going to convert them.
And what was the
From
reason? Is it a
Nairobi.
time thing, or
Why we
or,
didn't?
or
We didn't think they
an
knew enough
ability
yet.
thing?
Yeah, they had to-
They had to learn more.
Okay.
There's
They had
no
to
such
learn
thing as mass conversion. You have to
Right.
check
Yeah,
each
that's right.
family, each individual has to be checked, and
Right.
they just weren't.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Right.
time yet.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't
You're
time,
not the
but-
missionaries that came in there.
No,
Right.
precisely.
Yeah, no,
Look, I-
1900s.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Rabbi Riskin would agree if I make this statement, and it's probably outlandish to most people.
Yeah.
Judaism is a missionary religion,
Okay.
but we don't actively go out and convert people. In other words, we want to convert people that want to be part of us.
Right.
You understand
Yeah.
the
There's a
nuance?
difference
Yeah.
there. I mean,
Yeah, right.
You're not forcing
So-
anyone, and you're
So,
not.
so if they're interested, then we'll convert them, but they have to be ready. In other words, they have to have a certain knowledge of it. We brought a lot of pairs of tefillin, talitot, and things like that
Right.
at that point.
I know. I was here a few weeks ago, and you were packing up another.
Right.
another
Yes,
bag.
Right.
yes,
right.
yes.
Right. We've probably sent 50, 60 pairs of tefillin that have come from individual people's pockets, basically.
Right.
A little bit of some was donated, but
Cut to JJ.
okay. So
Let's
so
hear
Rabbi
about
Riskin had
JJ.
this difficult task.
Yeah.
Of, JJ, by the way, stands for Yoav Yonadav.
Okay.
So one of the biblical names, right?
Yeah.
And he's
Right. That's the first English name I heard, and I'm like, okay, who's this JJ?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but
I get it.
it's amazing. Everyone knows him as JJ. We're looking for his house this year when we were there.
Yeah.
And we'd stop and ask for directions to this place and say, "Oh, you're looking for JJ's house?" Yeah. So the whole world knows him as JJ. He's a minor politician in the area as well, and he's a successful businessman. So he's well known. So anyway, Rabbi Riskin was explaining why we're not converting you
Right.
to people, and he was having. I mean, I felt that he was fumbling it a little bit because it was hard to do because of the
It's
expectation
a
that
very
they had.
difficult
Right,
situation.
Yeah.
and
It's a very
basically
difficult
he
situation.
promised that I promised you that we're going to come back.
Right.
But in the interim, you have to learn. And he said, "Look, don't just think I'm telling you. You have to learn. I learn. You learn, he learns, we all learn. Judaism is part of this continuous learning process." So JJ sticks up his hand and he says, "Rabbi, just like you learn and I learn and you're Jewish and I'm not, why can't I be Jewish? We're going to learn. We're learning."
Already. Already.
Right? So it was really a trump card, and I could feel for the rabbi, I really could. But he answered it quite well and said, "Don't worry, we're going to come back and we want to see that you're learning.
And
we want to
did.
see the mikveh being used by all the women, for example.
Right.
We want to see the shul full every day.
Yeah.
We want people to use the tefillin that we bought.
Right.
And when we hear that that's happening, then we'll come back."
Okay.
And we did.
Wow. How quickly? How soon after?
About 3.5 years.
Okay.
Okay, and in the interim, we had Enosh came to the yeshiva as well. We brought Enosh out. Do we have anyone else from there?
Moshe Galandi.
Oh, and that was
I did
after,
Moshe.
actually. That was
and
after.
the other Moshe.
Yeah, we
the
brought
original
Moshe.
Moshes came-
Yeah.
Well,
became-
Moshe came.
yeah.
It was after 2016, and another
Right.
guy called Moshe Galandi, who also came to the yeshiva.
Right.
At the same time, to work that nicely, we had a guy from Cameroon who was here. Cameroon
Yeah.
and Gabon, just as an aside, but I think it's important, have exactly the same story.
Okay.
In other words, there are people who became Christians and realized that they were led up the garden path.
They're like separate.
Yeah,
so-
sort of
yeah.
came to the
Which
same
which
conclusions.
is one of the things Rav Riskin asked me to do when we came back in 2011. Find them. There must be more. This can't be a unique concept. And
He's
Nigeria,
getting emails all the time from all these people from around the world.
I have on my website. I have what I call shots from Africa. So basically, shooting of Africans, and I've been basically all I'm doing. That's not all I'm doing, but a lot of what I'm doing. I'm getting halachic questions. Not me, but the two guys that went with us this year. We're getting questions all the time. Parsha Shavua, halacha. What's the halacha? Even tying halacha and Parsha Shavua together, and all kinds of interesting questions. Like some really amazing questions. And if I can't answer them, then I ask Rabbi Riskin or ask Rabbi Alfasi. I don't know if you know him in Efrat here, and Rav Golan, and so I'm not just who might answer all these
But
questions.
some amazing questions, even interesting African questions about the guy. How can he daven before he goes to shul? Because he has to milk the cow, or he has to bring the water from the well.
Yeah,
or,
can he say Shema
do.
before he puts on tefillin because he's got to bring water from the well before he goes to shul? And then if sometimes he doesn't have enough time to put tefillin on, so should he say Shema without his tefillin and he'll put the tefillin on later? And things like that,
Wow. Really unique, yeah. I mean, we don't have such worries of these things here.
Yeah, right.
It's very different over there.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. What's their
From a lot of the questions I've realized how different. I mean, I've learned about their life from the questions they ask.
And the Torah gets applied to that too.
Sorry?
And the Torah is applicable.
Yeah.
Of course.
You have to.
We live in a totally different life.
You have to answer them. You have to answer them with real answers.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing, I've said this a couple of times. We all come from communities, whether it's America or whether it's not America at all, it's really Russia or Germany or wherever we all came from. And we're all carrying all this baggage of minagim.
Right.
And they're our minagim. They don't have any minagim. Whatever I or anyone else answers them.
And generations.
That will become minhag. Yes.
Okay, so between meat and milk, 1 hour. Let's give them the easy stuff, guys.
In general, yes. Yeah. I don't know what. I think we didn't say 1 hour between meat and milk, but we've often gone towards the Sephardi psak, even though they're Ashkenazim. Why? It's not just because we're Ashkenazim.
Yeah.
They actually chose to be Ashkenazim because they actually started off as Sephardim originally, which is a whole separate story I don't want to go into now.
Okay.
But a lot of times we'll posek halacha for them according to the Sephardi minhag because it's easier. For example, kitniot.
Right. Also, like if you think about it, Pesach over there in their village is going to be very, very, very difficult.
Right.
If they can't do kitniot.
Right.
I mean, I imagine
for sure.
And there's many farmers there, I imagine.
Yeah.
And they're probably growing
corn,
grains.
or what they call maize, what you call corn.
Yeah.
Is their staple,
right?
One of their four staples.
That's how they live, subsistence farmers.
Yeah, the subsistence farmers.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit, like and sort of like, are they connected to the Western world more? Like,
go on.
No.
Do they have internet?
Look, they do very much so.
Okay.
Sorry.
But no electricity in the village.
There's no electricity in the village.
No
In their village. In Putti, there's no.
Right.
Well, now they have. Since we were there already in 2011,
they actually put a toilet block in there. Also, they had a toilet. The first time that we just went to this shack.
Well,
they called it a toilet, but you wouldn't.
Right.
It's not a flush toilet.
But now they put last time where they actually had a flush toilet.
In 2018,
wow.
They did it especially for us, though.
They did it for us. They did it for us, for Rav Riskin and for us. And I've
Where do you stay when you go there?
So we actually stayed in Mabale village nearby, the
city
nearby.
Kokengulu built this city from.
There's hotels there. We stayed in a hotel, and every day we'd go to the village. But some people have actually stayed in the village. We just with Rav Riskin, we wanted a bit more comfort.
Sure.
Even without Rav Riskin, I'm a funak. I'm not, I'm not going to sleep on a mattress on the floor or sit on the floor.
We have to take malaria tab and sleep under netting all the time there. But
no, as Rabbi Riskin said, I don't care where I am all day as long as I come back to a shower and a bed.
Beautiful. Yeah. Look, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, it can't be simple being out it's not like a comfortable situation being out in the sun, all day. On
no, they have houses.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, I imagine
there's a very funny photograph in the book of Rabbi Riskin. I told him you have to bring a hat because the mikvah's outdoors, and even the inside the mikvah.
You're in Africa.
Was outdoors.
Right. He didn't bring a hat. He wore a suit and tie.
So he wore a suit and tie, which he always does. That's okay. We even went on safari, and he wouldn't take off his suit and tie. I said, Rabbi, it's only me and your grandson. I said, no, this is how I dress. Right. And he had a picture of elephants on his ties or on his tie. And we went on a 4-hour safari, just the three of us. That was in 2011, but. So the cameraman, there's a guy making a movie of this whole thing. It's actually hopefully be released in January or February.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he was wearing a hat. There's sort of this floppy light brown hat, and I said, his name's Tomasz. I said, Tomasz, I need your hat. And I put it on the rabbi's head. Yeah. So I said, the rabbi's now started a new group of Hasidim that wear light brown hats. But it really saved him. He was burning up. I was burning up and I had a hat on.
Yeah.
Like I try and in between tefillas, because we did a lot of, this is 2016, I've already jumped forward.
Yeah.
In 2016, we converted 180 people, of which 40 were from Nairobi and 140 were from Uganda.
That was just a massive, that was a crazy 4 days.
This was in Putti, they came to
Yes. Including JJ and his clan. And when I say clan with JJ and his wife have 10, I think this is correct, 10 natural children and about 15 adopted children.
They just adopt children. They just look after all these children. They just look after
kids. Someone's mother disappeared and left these 2 kids behind. But we came in 2019, we were there, and JJ comes with 2 more kids. I said, JJ, we converted all of your people 3 years ago. What's your family? He said, no, their mother... Their mother left them, and no one was looking after them, and I took them in, and they're living in my house, so they should be They should be milah. And turned out they also had a sister. He only brought the boys, right? Because it's different with kids, but with as far as accepting for Giura and this. So I won't go into the whole halachot of Giura.
It's not a wealthy village. They're quite poor.
Oh, they're quite poor.
They're very poor. They're very poor.
There's no glass in the windows. They have shutters and bars, but no.
Wow.
Okay, for example.
And they're all mostly farmers.
Yeah, they're all farmers, but now the younger generation are going to university. Yeah. But it's not so easy to get jobs, especially when you're living out in the country
and they have
area.
These aspirations to make aliyah.
They don't talk about it. They don't. They know they should because they're Jewish.
We talked about more.
That's not
earlier,
why they wanted. They didn't convert because they wanted to come to Israel.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Because before we came, they were already practicing Judaism.
There are those stories, right?
Where, for sure.
But this doesn't seem that way. It started in the early 1900s.
Right, exactly.
That's right.
Before there was even a state.
Yes.
Right, and it wasn't true in Cameroon. It wasn't true with the community in Cameroon. It wasn't true with the community.
There's
in
another
Gabon.
Community now also that we converted. That in Mukono. You can tell the story. No. This is not.
I'm glad you guys made a missionary comment earlier.
Yeah,
because it sounds like you're missionaries, but
we're not. No,
exactly.
No, we're not. We are. Yes, I'll go back to what I said. I believe Judaism is a missionary religion.
Right,
but not to go hunting but not to go looking for people.
I'm not even sure that's 100% true, but not to go and just pick people up at random and say,
now you're gonna do this.
Like with expulsion from Portugal in 1497, the Jews are walking to the boat, and the king realized that he'd made a mistake and he shouldn't have done this, the expulsion, but he had to because he just married Ferdinand Isabella from Spain's daughter, and that was the part of the T'nai Ketubah, right? And he realized this was going to kill his economy, and it did. In the end, it did. It killed the Spanish economy eventually as well. But they had all these priests lining on the street and people sprinkling water on them, saying, "You're not Christian. You're not Jewish. You're Christian. Not Jewish. You're Christians." Like a mass conversion. Yeah. And as far as the church was concerned, they were now Christians.
That was good enough.
Even though they didn't agree or want to be, and many of them did return home because the king said, I'll give you 20 years to think about it. So you can still practice Judaism for another 20 years. And then the conversion that we just did in the street, if you're still here in 20 years, will take effect retroactively.
Meanwhile, there's another community there in Uganda, in Mukono, a town of part of Kampala, who were originally part of, how can I say, evangelical.
Yeah, there was an evangelical congregation.
Yes, were and the head guy suddenly started thinking things were a bit strange, reading into things, seeing things were strange.
Again,
And
same
he
story.
Right.
Same story.
This is
He had
recent.
800 people every Sunday in his church.
And he decided things were a bit strange. He said, we're going to start keeping, we really should be keeping things on Saturday, not Sunday.
No, that was later.
That was later. So how
he started off by saying there are things in the Old Testament that we don't keep as Christians, and we should be keeping them.
Right.
Like?
That was the first thing, Pesach.
Okay.
He said, no bread. We're going to eat only chapati.
Yeah, which is, he didn't know.
Which
You
is
know what I mean?
common.
Yeah.
But it's a flat
But
bread,
that's-
and
Right.
he must have seen pictures of matzah on
Right.
Wikipedia or something. I don't know.
I don't know.
And that was the first thing where they kept for 8 days. Or 7 days actually, because they read the Bible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, right.
They didn't know about the Galut. They ate chapati, and gradually he started introducing more and more minhagim. Now, some people didn't.
In the middle of
like it.
nowhere.
They're not Abayudaya.
No. Not Abayudaya.
This is a total.
This is just a
evangelical-
totally
evangelical-
different
This
story.
is one of the.
Yeah.
It's basically a suburb or a city that's joined on. It's its own municipality,
Right.
But it's contiguous to
What I think
Kampala.
is so interesting and unique about this is happening right now.
Yeah,
Yes.
This is not
No,
like you're not talking
now.
about
Yeah.
40,
No,
50
no.
years
No,
ago.
we're in the world of
It's
Tallit.
incredible.
We're talking. This started
Yeah.
maybe 12 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Eventually, people started leaving because of this. They didn't like this,
Mm-hmm.
but he's quite charismatic. And eventually, he got to the stage where he realized that Sunday is
It's not the
against
day for
against
that.
the Torah, against the Old
Uh-huh.
Testament. And he decided that we're not meeting next Sunday, we're meeting next Saturday. So he lost 400 people overnight.
Wow.
Right? And then he started introducing more and more Old Testament halachot, customs, mitzvot, whatever you want
Whatever
to call
he
them.
knew, like he
Yeah.
was,
Yeah, whatever
you
he
know,
could find,
whatever he read,
Right.
yeah.
I'm not sure when he ditched the New Testament, but by the time he was basically Jewish in every respect, they were down to well under 200 people. So he'd lost 3/4 of his mate, which is his bread and butter,
Okay.
right?
Right.
And
He had a whole
very much his bread and
congregation
butter.
that kept him doing what he
Um,
was doing, right?
So what happened was there's a very strange story, and I still can't work out exactly what happened because we weren't there. Because in 2016, so we went on safari and arrived a week before everyone else, and were already in Mbale, the hotel,
Waiting
when
for the
these
others to
guys
arrive,
landed.
yeah.
The rest of Rav Riskin and the other, 3 guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
landed. And they're coming through Entebbe, Kampala, Mukono.
This is a weird story, yeah.
And suddenly there's this guy they have this thing called a boda in Uganda. It's a motorcycle taxi.
Okay.
Okay, and they even have push bike taxis that are also bodas.
Okay.
And this guy on a boda is driving next to their van.
Suddenly looks in the van and
Yeah.
sees like Rav Riskin with his keyboard, sees
Jews.
with keyboard, with Jews,
Right.
yes.
And he stops them
Yeah.
and he wants to talk to them. And he says, I'm Jewish also.
I thought he said Shema Israel or something.
Oh, I don't know exactly what he said.
He
I
said
don't
Shema Israel. He said, look, Shema Israel, and he showed him he's wearing a kippah. And
Yeah.
so
My next door neighbor who came with us also he's
was in the
been
car.
there a few times was actually in the car. So I know it from him.
something like that. But meanwhile,
No, wait a second.
one
No,
thing,
go on.
because of that, we put them in contact.
No,
They got into
Go
contact
back one
what?
step. No. We didn't put them in contact. It had nothing to do with
Guys are
us. Nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with us. On the way back to the airport,
Okay, finishing.
Right.
Yeah.
he's there again.
He's waiting for you.
Right, he's waiting for them. I don't know how he knew.
Yeah.
Now Enosh was in the
Waiting for
car on both the trips.
Okay.
So Enosh, they exchanged phone numbers.
Okay, great.
And that
Okay, so
Yeah.
Enosh
So it had nothing to do with us.
Okay, you're right.
We
No,
didn't do
I don't mean
anything.
us. Okay.
Right.
Enosh started teaching them.
Yeah.
So this man from
Wow.
this community from Putti is teaching his community in Mukono.
Wow.
well, he taught them Hebrew. They were praying in English.
He gave them sidurim, but he had not that he had.
He gave them
them-
tefillin.
Right. This is probably stuff that you guys were.
Yeah, of course, of
Yes,
course,
yes.
of course.
Now he gave them.
He spent 2 days a week living with 2 nights a week, like 3 days a week over a
looking
period of
after
time.
them,
How
looking
far?
after them.
How far? How
It's
far
a
are they
4 or
from
5
each
hour
other?
drive.
Okay.
4-hour drive.
Not a pleasant drive. He gave them a paper sefer. They had a paper sefer Torah in Putti.
Originally, yeah.
Originally, now they have a real one, and so he gave them their paper
Someone
sefer Torah.
donated a Sefer Torah to them in
Yeah.
2015.
So the paper sefer Torah is now in Mukono.
Wow.
Except
So-
now they have a newer one also.
A new one.
A new paper one.
A new paper sefer
We're
Torah.
looking for a donor. Anyone out in the world there that has a spare Sefer Torah,
listen,
I've got a
this
good
is-
home for it. I'm
this
being
is
very
happening-
serious.
This is amazing. This is happening right now. This
right
is
now.
really
So
an
we went to
incredible thing.
Mukono now. When we were actually there for the 100th anniversary. It was a big,
Oh, we didn't get there yet.
we didn't
In
get-
2019,
I think we're
we
running
went
out of
back
time there
again.
for you. But
Guys, this is so interesting.
one thing-
Let's go. We'll do 2 episodes.
2019
Yeah.
was
Is
the...
We still have a good 15 minutes.
okay, it was the 100th anniversary of Judaism
Of
in
Kukungulu.
Uganda, of Kukungulu, 2019.
Wow.
They had a huge,
1919, right.
huge celebration. How could we not
we,
be there?
Right. And we met Rabbi Riskin and the... but I won't go into why, but nearly all of us met with one of the senior ministers.
Yeah.
Of
A very senior minister. We were supposed to
Uganda.
meet the president,
Wow.
but he couldn't. I mean, the president really loves Israel. You got to
like
know
right
that.
now, there's a good sizable Jewish community or Jewish like affiliated community there?
Well, okay. Let me 3 sentences on the 100th, and then we'll
Go
go.
ahead,
I'll go
yeah.
right through to now. When we were
They had
there.
this
We're there in
huge,
February.
huge celebration in Putti.
And there was another minister. And there was another minister
thousands
there
of people
Wow.
with a
came.
message from the president.
with signs everywhere. Welcome, I should show you the sign. Welcome to the 100th anniversary of Judaism in Uganda.
goodness.
A whole sign
Yeah,
everywhere.
didn't say that said Judaism in
and
Uganda.
they had or I
Yeah.
think it said Abayudaya on the sign, I think.
It also said, I'm saying it
And
was Judaism in Uganda.
And they had this huge
And it was on the
day.
news.
Yeah.
A day.
You know,
So
Rabbi
we-
Riskin speaking to this minister was
If
a
you
2.5
don't know about
minute,
this,
2.5
you
minute
guys
clip.
need to pay attention. This is incredible.
So
You've got the actual interview, haven't you? On
I
your
have the
phone?
interview on-
Yeah, we
yeah.
can give you that.
and so we went, and we also converted some more people then, and we met these
No,
people.
we converted another 20 people in Putti from the
Putti.
Putti community at that
Yeah.
point. Not these guys.
No,
Again,
these guys, but we met them. We met these people from Mukono who had come also to the celebration.
they were expecting us to convert
They
them.
thought we'll convert,
They were-
and we
again,
weren't.
like 2013, they were 100% sure we were going to convert them.
Right.
They thought we're coming to
Now,
and
unfortunately,
they
they just
cry,
split into two.
and they
community
cry
split.
and they cry.
Yeah.
And they said, and they said,
Yeah.
the women are crying.
Please convert us.
Please,
Please convert us.
Right, they really want
They're
it.
Yeah.
crying. They're crying.
And,
It's terrible.
and we
you know?
said, again, we'll come back. Don't worry, we really will come back.
You mentioned, unfortunately, they split, right?
Yeah.
I mean, now you know they're a real Jewish community, right?
Yeah.
Right, that's what everyone says.
It's,
So
it's a sick joke, and I really hate saying it, but
Yeah.
I have said it before. So
there's a few splits going
Yeah.
on. So Mukono split, and we went back now.
we went to visit both houses.
Both
Now,
houses.
what we did was when we went back, we said we'll come back again. The same thing that Rav Riskin said in 2013.
Yeah.
We see you're keen. We see you're interested. You've got to learn more. You know, the women have to go. They'd already built a mikveh, which they just filled it. We were there the day they filled it.
Okay.
So Rabbi Riskin and I had a look at the mikveh to make sure it was kosher and
Right.
everything was okay and stuff like that. And they filled it that day.
Right.
They filled it that day. And
a real amazing mikveh.
yeah, and we
Wow.
spent Shabbat with them.
They're all on their own initiative.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
all-
all in their, I mean, they were in touch with Rabbi Fishman, Stuart Fishman here in Efrat,
Okay.
and he
How to
gave them
build- so the
instructions how to
halachot,
do it. And then we came and we checked it and whatever, and they still finished building it, but it was already usable because
Right.
they filled it well. It's amazing how much groundwater there is there. It filled the whole mikveh filled in about 6 or 8 hours.
Wow. So
just from natural springs.
and they have wells for water over there?
Mukono
yeah.
is a city.
Oh,
Mukono
so
is-
it's-
No,
very
but
different.
but they're still using it there as well.
Yeah.
We saw people taking water from the well that was
Oh, yeah.
filling the mikveh.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Actually, the house next to the mikveh there is a house, and I saw a lovely looking kitchen, but there was no sinks because there's no running water.
There's no taps. Yeah,
Right.
they
No
bring
taps,
the water.
no forced
They
drinking
go out
water.
and take water from
More
the
counter
spring.
space.
Yeah. But it was really nice
Yeah.
house, nice kitchen.
So our
and no
last
taps.
trip, we went.
So no. So
before
we said you have to
Purim.
learn. So then we started organizing shiurim,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
On Skype. At first on Skype, then on Zoom.
Yeah.
Abi Reichman, who was one of the members of the Bet Din,
Yeah.
was there.
Yeah.
Was there 3 times, I think, in the interim.
Yeah.
He wasn't there in 2000. He wasn't at the. No, he wasn't at the
He wasn't at the
100th
100th,
anniversary.
no.
But
Okay.
he visited 2 or 3 times between then, and we went again in February this year.
This year.
So what was
just,
that like?
Just
That must have
before
been-
Corona.
Yeah, that-
We arrived home a few days before Purim.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, we converted, there's 69 of them, of the community, of the Mukono community.
Yeah.
And what's one thing that's come out of this Corona is the Zoom.
Right.
That they're learning,
Right.
we're
So
doing
now there's
Zoom.
direct
We have
connection.
3
All the
and
time. We have
learning
shiurim all
happening
throughout. We
the
have
time.
actually now a women's group. I've taken on 2 women from Matana Sharon who are
Yeah.
madrichot there.
Who I gave a lecture to before we went.
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
about them.
Like
Wow.
Because there's someone in Efrat, a guy called Rav Betzalel Daniel,
Okay.
who's in charge of this program for what do you call it, Madrichot halachot or whatever.
In Manana.
So they got really turned on.
So they wanted to come with us, but they couldn't organise the last minute. But they're now giving shurim. We have a WhatsApp group with the women. Now these women, we have a married. There's women that ask all these questions.
In Mukono, they have electricity because they're.
They have
electricity. Oh no, it's a city. It's a city.
But from
the village,
the other town,
Putti.
In Putti, they don't necessarily have, but they have phones and they charge at
mobile
time.
Yeah, but they don't.
When we
we
first
bring
came
phones.
there,
We bring phones.
when we first came there was no electricity.
Yeah.
Nighttime, totally dark.
Right.
Second time we came in 13, there were 2 solar panels.
Right.
Now they have about 40 solar panels, so they have lighting at night, and they can charge their phones in the village. Don't have to go to town to charge their phones. I just want to say one thing that I want to say before, and it just came up again now with Mukono about the missionary aspect. Is in 2016, where we interviewed about 180 people, and also now in 2020, where we interviewed 7. Well, actually, we interviewed more because we don't accept everyone. We didn't accept. There were probably about 80 people we interviewed. I mean, that's including kids. Families
it's a very hard thing.
This is a very complex thing. Maybe I'll send you.
We're talking about.
I'll send you the text of what I wrote.
Yeah. Straight
afterwards. But what I want to say is this is emotionally absolutely exhausting. But we spent 4 days.
Yeah.
And there were 5 of us interviewing in Putti.
Yeah.
With the Nairobi people and people from around Putti, and the 3 of us together sitting for 3 days just interviewing. I mean, sometimes an interview, we try to schedule it, but an interview can take 10 minutes or it can take an hour and 10 minutes.
Is there any language barrier?
Yes, we had translators.
Okay.
We always had translators. Because some of them really don't speak English, even though it's the national official language.
Yeah.
And B, because sometimes it just works out better when they hear the question in their native language, but it takes much longer.
Right.
It takes much longer.
It's very hard when people all come, they want to be interviewed, and some of them realise they weren't accepted.
Yeah.
Right.
They're very distressed.
Yeah,
well, I'll just tell you one story, just quickly on that, or do you want to tell the story?
Maybe
okay.
We'll end with that.
So, okay. One guy who's one of the key people in the community has a daughter who's 12, and he wanted her to convert, and he was converted. And he's just got remarried, and his wife was converted, and she couldn't get out of school when we were doing the interviews, and I said, look, she can't get out of school. We can't. I mean, we've got to meet her. We can't make the decision. And then you feel a little bit bad, because there are these 3 old guys sitting in front of you. And
they're not old. Yeah.
Well, she's 12, Okay,
yeah.
There are these 3 old guys sitting there.
It's intimidating.
And we're in the house next to the mikveh, the one without the sink.
Right.
And they didn't have 4 real chairs, and we're sitting on these stools.
Yeah.
And she's sort of sitting on the stool as well, or on the floor. I can't remember, I think on a stool.
Yeah.
And we're interviewing her, and we just said, look, you're a really great kid. You're extremely intelligent. I'm sure you'll make a great Jew, but if you're in school for 3 months at a time and you can't keep Shabbat, you can't keep Kashrut, I mean, how can you just eat lettuce and tomatoes? And what are you going to do on Shabbat? Saturday's a school day in Uganda.
And I mean, this is her circumstances. It's really not.
And it's not that she's in her father's house for more than a couple of months. Exactly. So we told her no. We said, look, we sent her out and we discussed it.
Yeah, they said,
we did this a lot, actually.
I'm not there. This is the 3 people. Yeah, they did, not me. Right. I'm with them outside,
We're sitting there, and we felt, look, we said to each other, we feel really bad. We feel bad for her father.
Right.
But it's just not a goer.
Look,
wait a second. Let me share that story ended because it had a happy ending.
Oh, great. I was worried. I didn't want to end on a...
No, So we said to her, look, we're really sorry, but hopefully in the future, when you finish high school and whatever, when you're with your father, keep everything you can, keep everything as much as you can, not. And that's one of the things Rabbi Riskin keeps on drumming into these people, that you've got to act Jewish, you've got to be Jewish before the conversion isn't going to change anything other than the formality of it.
Right.
I mean,
I think that's a good lesson for us.
Right.
Also.
Yeah. For sure. Because we're so shigrati with everything.
Yeah.
And here she starts crying and.
And I'm outside trying to comfort her. Then she comes outside.
And anyway, so I'm the one that has to tell her father, right?
Yeah.
So I go up to her and I said, look, I'm really sorry, but she really knows a lot of stuff. I can see you've educated her well. She's a really, really nice kid. And I'm sure she's got a great future in front of her. She's going to this fancy private prep school, right?
Right.
And she's in a school uniform. And I said, look, it's just not going to work because of Shabbat. And food is difficult, but food is surmountable. But it's not going to work because of Shabbat. And he said, oh, when I went to pick her up from the school, I had a meeting with the headmistress.
Yeah.
And you can imagine what a headmistress is in one of these private preppy schools, like they're bulldogs, right?
Yeah.
And he said, and I told her what we're doing and why I'm bringing her out and whatever. And she said that she's quite happy for her to leave school every Friday afternoon and come back on Sunday morning.
Unreal.
So we converted her.
Wow. Unreal. That's amazing.
Isn't that an amazing story
That is amazing.
to finish this with?
Never would have. I was about to get really, really sad.
Yeah. There was another case. Let me tell you about another case. Which
Okay,
is
and then I want to.
And then, okay. One more case. We had a family of a husband and a wife and 4 kids, I think it was. Okay. Now, we did a lot of prep work, legwork before we came.
We had lists. We'd gone.
We'd
We'd
done
done
a
a lot.
list and tell us about these people and, do they have a partner that is, because we won't convert a man whose wife isn't Jewish and vice versa.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's very
it's either all or none. The family, under 18, the whole family, or no one. Right. And if it's over 18, then they don't want to convert, or they do want to convert. Anyway, so we're interviewing this family, and we were told beforehand they're not really serious. I haven't seen her in shul for I don't know how long.
Okay.
He comes with his son. He stays over. They live a little bit far away. Stays over a lot, but I don't know how serious. I don't know that you want to interview them. I said, no, I want to interview anyone that's interested. I don't. There was some I said, no, you're right, I won't interview them. Like mainly because they had a spouse not interested.
Spouse,
right. Well, a spouse not interested. But I said I want to meet them. And so we start talking to them, and I've already got this negative thing before I start, right? Because that's how I've been. The other 2 didn't know. I didn't tell the other 2.
Okay.
Because I think it's important that you come into this kind of interview as unbiased as possible.
Right.
And I was already biased.
Right.
And I even said a couple of times where this kind of situation, I said, whatever you 2 decide, I'll agree.
They bet in him.
If you, on the bet in. If you 2 decide, then I'm with you.
Right.
But I'm not going to. I'll stop. I'll listen, but I won't say anything unless I think I've got something important to say. And this is what's happening here now. What was happening? The husband is he hasn't got a job. He's not working because he's got some startup idea and he's trying to develop it and he's spending all his time on this. He's not working. Then it turns out they lost 2 children around the age of 10, a boy and a girl, a couple of years apart, and even showed us photographs of the kids. I mean, this is really tear-jerking stuff. And we're all crying by the end. And then the wife doesn't come to shul, doesn't come with him on Shabbat because she's a school teacher.
Okay.
And she has to teach on Shabbat, but she doesn't touch a pen. She doesn't touch the blackboard.
She's keeping Shabbat.
She's keeping Shabbat even though she's teaching. And she can't not teach because he's not working.
Right.
And she's the only income.
Right.
And there are another 4 kids.
Right.
And I'm just telling you that.
It's like you can't.
This wasn't just them crying. We were all crying. The whole room was. There wasn't a dry eye in the room.
Yeah.
And we converted them.
Unreal.
We converted them.
That is beautiful.
Yeah. So there's a lot of it's emotionally very, very
very
heavy.
draining. And they get up and they say Shema together. It's amazing just to be in a conversion.
Yeah.
It's something I would walk in just a little to hear.
When we accept them. Yeah.
Unreal. I was only part of the party to see one conversion here in Efrat.
Yeah.
Right.
Someone that I knew came and sat in Rav Riskin's beitin.
Right.
I didn't sit. I was in the back of the room, but it's an incredible thing to see.
Yes.
But this is a whole different story. Guys, this is so heartfelt. This is such a beautiful thing, and it's happening right now. It's like
right now,
yeah.
and we're actually having a fundraiser because the community needs. They need money. They need help. We want to set them up.
We'll get more agricultural land so they can grow stuff to sell.
To be able to support themselves. We want to help them. So they're having. I will send you the link. We're having
actually
next week a cause
on
match. It's happening now. It's happening.
We'll
the
link
next
it here alongside with our video as well.
And in the future, we'd love this other community to get their own instead of a paper set. We're sending. Actually, we had a donor. We had someone sending them now. We sent them last week 6,000
50 sidurim and
beautiful
6,000 shekel worth of koren.
Wow, sidurim,
chumashim.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Wow. If you if this story touched you, if this story is interesting to you, you can see more. We're gonna add some links alongside of this video and to the podcast as well. You guys will give me the information. If you could just, if you don't mind, maybe show. Menachem has this beautiful, beautiful portrait book.
Which is that guy there.
It's incredible, and these are just some of his amazing pictures and part of this story.
The whole story here is Rav Riskin's trips. It's
This is, in some ways, this is a biography of one aspect of Rav Riskin's
Right.
life. More than,
What I'll do is I'll snap some pictures. I'm gonna put that
more
if you
than
don't
an
mind.
autobiography of mine. There's
Right.
There's Rabbi Riskin speaking to them in the shul.
Wow.
Anyway, that's Enosh's Jewish wedding after they came out of the mikveh.
Wow.
Right. And
Mazel tov.
there's a lot of stuff. It's been
Wow.
pretty well. And also I have a
Here, you
friend.
can hold that next to him. Yeah.
I have a friend. We have a Canadian friend who
we become friends through this.
Yeah,
Sure.
we only met him in Putti, but we're very close. And he's doing a movie just about Putti.
Okay.
So
guys,
hopefully
look
that'll
out
be
for
out.
that.
That'll be out early next year.
Wonderful. Is there a name to that or?
Yeah, we're trying to help
we
him.
don't know.
I
We're
don't-
trying to help
yes,
him find
No,
a
he's
name.
got a name
Yeah.
which I really don't like.
Okay.
So
we're trying
Shalom Putti.
Okay.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Yeah, that's better. We're anyone can come with a. It's got to have something Jewish in the name,
Of course.
and something African. And the name of my book, The Abayudaya Judaism Emerging a Spiritual Journey in Africa, is
I
a
think
little
it's a
bit too
great
long.
name. Yeah.
Which I think is a great name. But
Guys, this has been a real pleasure. If you like this
Lovely.
podcast, please subscribe. And you can hear this on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, and everywhere you like to listen to your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. And I just want to thank you guys again so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Giving me the
Thank
It was
time.
so great
Thank you.
bumping into
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. I love it. I love it. That's Efrat, right?
Yes.
It's a
Right.
simple happenstance meeting.
That's right. That's
To
right.
have a wonderful time like this. Thank you guys so much.
Pleasure.
okay,
Thank
great
you.
day.
Thank you.